TikTok time. Here we go.
Hey, my TikTokers.
Hi.
Right now, I want to talk about student loan debt. I'm going to be honest with you. I owe at least $350,000 in student loan.
She said at least 350,000. How do you get into that debt? Oh my goodness. Well, she has 3 master degrees, so but even for 3 master degrees, wow, that's a lot.
And I did that to give my 3 young men privilege. Okay?
Oh, please don't tell me these are Parent Plus loans. So she said she did it to give her 3 young men privilege. I don't know what she means exactly by privilege. I'm assuming that this is a mom who did this, sounds like, for her 3 kids. I'd like to know what she means by privilege. I'm assuming she means to kind of help them get ahead, but at what cost?
All 3 of my children, my 3 sons, 25, set of twins, 23, all graduate from LSU on an academic scholarship.
They all graduated from LSU on academic scholarship. So why is there a $350,000 student loan?
Okay? One makes more. They're going to be one makes more money than me, and one makes what I make. Okay?
I feel like I've crawled down the rabbit hole. This isn't making sense. So it sounds like she took out a 350. What I'm confused about is if these kids all went on academic scholarships, then why does she have a $350,000 student loan? Remember what I've said. This is a house. She bought a house for her children or for herself that she cannot live in. So if they had scholarships, why is there such a huge loan? I mean, I understand people can get scholarships and sometimes, it'll pay for part of it, but not all of it.
The other one is getting his master's on an academic scholarship. Okay? When I left Washington, D.C., when it was the murder capital of the world, I lost so many friends that were males. I told myself that when I have young men, I'm going to give them back to the universe, because we lost some great men to the crack cocaine era.
Okay, I can respect all of that. Have to be honest, I was not raised in Washington, D.C., was not raised in the black community. I was adopted in Vietnam and raised in Eugene, Oregon, okay? But I can understand a parent wanting to give, their kids advantages. But what I'm trying to figure out, and maybe by the end of this TikTok, I'll have a better understanding. Where does this $350,000, it sounds like, parent loan, what does it have to do with the 3 master degrees? So what part of it is that? And how is this helpful to her children, taking on this type of debt? I just lost my mouse. Every now and then, you guys, I lose my mouse and I have to find it. Now, where's my mouse? I'm looking. Oh, there's my mouse. I told you, I got this new 35-inch screen and I lose my mouse. Hold on.
But getting back to this $350,000
Yes.
student loan, I ain't never paying it back. You
No, I seriously doubt you will pay it back.
understand? And I'm going to tell you why. Where my reparations? Okay?
Okay, reparations. I'm not a history buff, but I believe that has to do with paying money to members of the black community in the United States for the financial injustices that were done in the past. Hey, don't ask me to get any more detailed than that. That's about all I understand, okay?
Where is the jobs? And when we get these jobs, where is the money?
Okay, so where are the jobs, where are the money? I can respect that. What I'm having a hard time understanding is how it sounds like a single mom. Okay, I'm going to assume safely that this is a single woman. How is it that a single mom taking out $350,000 in student loan debt, how is that going to help the young black men get the jobs and get the money? That's what there's a disconnect here and I'm not quite understanding that. I'm going to keep an open mind here on this. And I'm also trying to figure out how reparations has anything to do with taking on a $350,000 debt. If the goal is to help young black men, I'm just using her words and her thoughts, okay? If the goal is to help young black men get better on their feet, how is the mother sinking herself financially going to help improve the young black men that she supposedly is trying to get on their feet? Because who's going to have to take care of her in her old age when this $350,000 becomes $500,000? And yes, it can.
You know what bothers me? I lived in Washington, D.C. all of my life until 1994. And when I go to Washington, D.C. now, it's gentrifying. Okay? I have no problem with gentrifying if they was giving property value to black people the way they was giving it to us when we were redlined. When I say us, my great grandmother came from
I'm going to pause this. Redlining, for those who may not know, redlining is basically when uh, I'll just give you my experience, my very brief understanding of it. Redlining was often like, for example, a bank would let's say value homes at certain dollars amount, but there would be this so-called red line on a map that would say these homes in these black neighborhoods were worth less than homes in white neighborhoods, even though the homes might actually look alike, and all of that stuff. That's kind of that red lining. Okay. That's what she's talking. That's what she's referring to when I believe when she says redlining. It's kind of like anything on this side of the red line or on this side of the tracks is considered black neighborhood less value, and anything on that side of the tracks is considered white neighborhood better value. Here's the thing. All right, I can respect and I will appreciate and I will listen to her historical analysis of where she thinks, black, her young black men should be. What I don't understand, okay, where my disconnect is how does that have to do with you taking out three master degrees and having $350,000 in student loan debt? If the goal is to state your point, make your point, okay, with, well, I'm going to take all the money and not pay any of it back because I'm owed that for reparations. Unfortunately, the only person she's hurting is herself and possibly her children, who will have to fund her old age because she will have nothing.
Georgia and moved to D.C. in 1920s, her and my great-grandfather. She purchased her house for $7,000. And in 1994, she passed, and we were still redlined, and she was only able to sell that house for $50,000. Now, when I look,
yeah, that's exactly what redlining is. Okay, so certain houses, certain neighbors were deemed more profitable than others, depending upon the racial makeup of the neighborhood.
in the window of her home, her row house, with some upgrades, not with some upgrades, see two young white faces, and the property row house is worth $850,000. My great grandmother lived in that house longer than anyone, from 1944.
Okay, and again, I respect the history. Okay, I even respect the unfairness of it, the injustice of it. Okay, it exists. Okay, it existed, still exists today in some neighborhoods. All right, but what I don't understand is how sinking oneself financially is proving a point. It's like, as a teacher, when I tell my students, if you cheat on a test, if you choose not to study because you don't like me personally as a teacher, you can do that, but it's not me that you're hurting. You're only hurting yourself. So I understand that maybe she has some pent up anger, whatnot, but I don't understand how taking out a $350,000 loan is going to make her life better and the life of her loved ones. There's a huge disconnect, and I don't see it.
To 1994. So, with that being said, where's the income? Where's our income?
Well, your income, with all due respect, is in the $350,000 student loan that you chose to take out. You could have chosen not to take out that student loan, kept that income, and allowed your family to start building, start saving, for wealth. Now, she can become a federal worker for 10 years and she can wipe that out. I don't know how old she is, but I'm assuming she and I are probably around the same age. She says she has a 25-year-old son. Okay. I think that was about the age range of her kids, in their mid 20s. So I'd put her about her 50s respectively. Okay. But when she's asking, where's our income? Where's our money? Well, it's in the student loans you took out that you're now going to have to pay to Uncle Sam. I'm very grateful I got my $110,000 student loan forgiven 2022. Very grateful. I feel very blessed for that. Won't be making that mistake again. But when you want to know where's your money, that's where it is.
I can't afford to pay back the student loans because I'm still trying to use the 3 master's degrees that you said pull us up our own bootstraps.
Okay, but you didn't just choose to pull yourself up with the 3 masters. You then went on and took Parent Plus loans for your 3 kids. And I'm going to suspect you knew you didn't have the money to pay it back. I'm not faulting because I took out my 110,000. I couldn't pay that back, so I have no room to fault. But I will say $350,000 is quite a for me. That would be a whole lot of sleep, and it's only going to grow. And I'm assuming the payments for this have got to be around $4,000 a month, and you can't go on income based, and unless she's in a federal job with loan forgiveness for 10 qualifying years. Okay, this debt cannot be forgiven.
No, it's from systemic racism. They get rid of systemic racism.
Okay, let me have her keep going.
I'll help pay the $350,000.
That I respectfully say that is warped thinking. That's like me going, you know what? Until they make everything justice and equal in the world, I'm just gonna keep on running up bills because by golly, I earned this credit card. The logic is it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, if you really want to make an impact on your family, you don't run up a $350,000 bill. You live within your means, which I'm finally on the track now, thank goodness, all right? But we need to live in our means, and then we need to model living in our means. This isn't modeling to your children how to live in their means. What it's modeling is what anger does to one's logic, and you put yourself in a situation that you now can't get yourself out of. It's kind of like, someone saying, so how's being angry working out for you?
You heard today's ruling. I mean, how does this decision personally affect you?
Well, as someone, Alex, with significant student loan debt, over $150,000 in student loan debt, I was looking for this lifeline, quite frankly. I work every day.
I think him referring to a $10,000, $20,000 student loan debt as a lifeline when you owe $150,000. I remember thinking myself with my $110,000 before it was forgiven. I remember thinking $10,000 isn't going to do a whole lot. Maybe hold me over for a couple months interest. And the fact that he's saying that this is a lifeline is kind of leading me to think that this was supposed to be given to him, and he had never considered that it would not be handed to him. But $10,000, $20,000 when you owe $150, that's not a lifeline. I don't even think it's a life preserver.
But with the economic conditions, with inflation, it was something that I looked forward to. I've worked in the public sector. I've tried to get the public service loan forgiveness, and quite frankly, higher education is just too expensive. And so, it's a bill that I've considered now a bill for life. And that.
Okay, the fact that he's considering this a bill for life. This is what happens, student loan borrowers, when we don't think in advance about the debt we're taking out in relation to the amount of money that our career can earn, in relation to what we are actually capable of. We may major in something and say, oh, but the top dollar for this career sits up here. But the question is, can you get there? Can you get to that top dollar amount?
That shouldn't be the case.
Well, and look, I mean, this also comes on the heels of that affirmative action decision. I'm curious, I mean, do you think that race played a role in your admission as an undergrad or as you were working towards your MBA?
Alex, I've gone to 3 predominantly white institutions, and most of them had small populations of students of color.
Okay, so you got to 3 predominantly white institutions, most of them with few students of color. So have I. And I never sat and reveled in the race issue. Now, maybe that's just because my parents were white and we really didn't discuss race that much. It's not like we sat around the table discussing how I was going to be disadvantaged because of my race. We did talk about how one might be disadvantaged if you didn't go to school, okay? But I don't really remember sitting around the table, other than maybe a couple discussions of don't let people calling you names get you down. But did we sit and have these heartfelt discussions to think deeply about whether or not my skin color was going to hold me back? No.
Especially Black people. So I'd be crazy not to think that it played a factor, and in many cases.
How about trying to think that maybe your decisions that you made in how much you took out in student loans is what played the factor? Nobody, because of race, told me that I had to take out a $110,000 student loan. Nobody, because of race, told me that I had to become a teacher. Nobody, because of race, told me I had to go to 3 different universities. Those were all personal decisions, absent of race. Race never even became a factor. And I think what annoys me is when I see interviews like this. And again, I'm not saying that race doesn't, when you look at the statistics and you look at numbers, yes, okay, so, Black people overall tend to have lower incomes, they have lower education due to American history and all of that. But let's put those numbers away for a second. Let's look at our own individual piece of the pie, okay? My own personal life, his own personal life. He's in $150,000 worth of debt, not because he's a Black man who went to a predominantly white school. Because what would he say if he had gone to a predominantly Black school? Okay, a historically Black college, HBCU. Okay, what would he say then? Because I can pretty much guarantee you he would have taken out the same amount of debt, if not more. So then who would he blame? So you can't sit and say that, it's great that you got these 3 degrees from prestigious universities, but then at the same time flip the card and say, but they're the ones to blame as to why I'm in all this debt. You could have just gone to one school and called it a day. So could I.
Those obstacles would have been there if we didn't have an affirmative action policy in place. This is devastating. I got a little brother, I got a little sister, who all want to go to college and be in college. And, we know that education is the key economic driver for opportunity.
I think we can take away some of the hyperbole of this is devastating, this was going to be my lifeline. Okay, I think we can come down off some of the drama queen stuff.
And so, my mom's an educator. We all love higher education in college, and it's unfortunate that it's not only cost prohibitive, but now race can play a role in whether you'll be admitted into it.
Of course race can play a role in it because that's what you're looking at. If that's what you want to see, that's all you're going to see. Okay? And here's the issue I have with this particular McGee gentleman. He and I were both raised in very educated families, okay? PhD, master degrees, and all of that stuff, okay? He is not a victim of somebody who was raised in the projects, whose parents flunked out of, I won't say flunked, okay, but whose parents, maybe didn't get a high school diploma, who has never had guidance as to how the collegiate world works. No, by his own admission, his whole family is lined up in education, just like mine is. So now whose fault is it? He was not denied an opportunity of education to know about it because of his race. By his own admission, his whole family is lined up in it. That'd be like me sitting there going, man, I got $110,000 student debt because I'm Black. Really? I don't remember that being part of the application process. What I remember was, do you want to go to this school, sign here? And yeah, and I did it 3 times over, and he did it 3 times over. Well, I didn't do it 3 times over. My bachelor's degree, I didn't have any debt. It was my 2 master degrees once I hit my 30s. So by his own admission, he is not the statistical Black male that he can blame the system on. Okay? He came from an educated family. These were strictly his personal decisions and perhaps some ego.
A university of your choice.
Switching gears back to the student loan relief. What's your payment strategy going forward to pay off this debt?
That's a great question, Alex. You know, I think for me, of course, trying to budget and figure out how to implement this new bill because we've been having relief for the last 2 years. Thinking about investment strategies.
This is what we should be thinking about before we get into student loan debt. How are we going to budget? How are we going to pay off the bills? Like so many people of all ages, okay, from the 17, 18-year-old all the way up through the 50s and even 60s. We get our degrees on a hope and a prayer and a wing that the income we're going to earn is going to pay it off, but we don't do the math first. That's like saying, put me in a Lexus, okay, and then deciding afterwards how I'm going to pay for it. I would never do that. I would have it completely mapped out. Okay, here's the car. How many, what's the Kelley Blue Book value? How many miles does this car have? We spend more time figuring out how to get a good deal on our vehicles. We spend more time, I know I do, figuring out the per ounce of orange juice. I mean, good God, I can tell you the, Minute Maid orange juice is sold at 16 cents an ounce. But if I go to, Ocean Spray, they go up to 26 cents an ounce. But ask me how much my student loan debt was, as I went through college, I couldn't tell you. And the other mistake we made is we base it only on the monthly payment. Because, when you're sitting there in the financial aid office, and I remember asking, okay, well, how much is it going to be? Oh, you'll be about $275 a month. Well, that sounds good. I'm all good. Sign me up. I didn't realize that was off of, $110,000 bill, and the $275 won't even cover, interest.
Started to think about ways that I can put money in the stock market and 401ks and high interest accounts and maybe try to use that interest to bring it down. But the fact of the matter is Alex, when you owe as much as I do, the interest alone is just going to continue to keep you in debt, right? And
I've discussed that on this channel, and I will continue to hammer this home. Those of you who are going on the income-based payment and you're breathing a huge sigh of relief because you can, quote unquote, afford it. No, you can only afford it if you want to take it home with you till the day you die. Okay? If you want to get out of debt in 10 years, 5 years, even 20 years, you want to get out of debt in the amount of time it takes to raise a kid from 0 to 18. You need to call up your student loan. Yeah, kind of a different way of thinking about it, right? You need to call up your student loan company and say, I want to get out of debt in 10 years. What is the monthly payment going to have to be without fail for me to get out of debt in 10 years? If you call up your student loan company and you say, hey, give me the lowest, cheapest payment plan you can, maybe even make it 0, well, that bill is just going to keep going up, 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 up. There will be no stop to it. And if you are not on public service, when you do get it forgiven after 20, 25, 30 years, and that's of making payments, not putting in deferment, not putting in forbearance, of making payments, then you'll owe the IRS, unless you're on public service.
That impacts whether I can buy a house, whether I can buy a car.
Impacts whether you can get a girlfriend.
And again, it feels like, this burden that is very hard to get rid of, no matter how much money you make, right? So, that's my strategy. I don't know how great it is. But
we should have thought of that strategy just like I should have before we went to school. Do you see, none of this is a math issue. This is about math. In his case, in my case, it's about math. It's not because we were naive to the fact that college is expensive and costs money. It's about the math. We are so excited to go and get that degree, to get that dream education, whatever it is that we wanted, that we forgot about the math. But we are not victims. He is not a victim. I was not a victim. Okay? We are not victims. Some people are. Okay? And the problem I have with him is he's taking the, I don't mean this to sound kind of, strange or, but he's taking a victim spot. He is taking up a spot where a victim, a true victim, should be sitting in. I hope this makes sense. There are people, yes, who are black, okay, who are truly, truly victims, first generation, no one to guide them. They're sent to a school that they saw every, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they were unemployed, telling them to go here, call this counselor. They get into a crooked school, okay? Those are victims. He is taking their spot, and he shouldn't be doing that. He's not a victim.
But, of course, also looking at my employer and trying to figure out if there's any options there.
Yeah. Well, and Jonathan, I mean, you highlighted this earlier. I mean, you come from a family of educators. I mean, you've got siblings. But, I mean, how important is education to you? And, I mean, do you think the education's worth the cost?
The education, is very valuable. It's the reason why I've seen the success that I've seen today. We know.
It's why you've seen the success you've seen today, and this is why you're on a news program talking about how you're carrying this $150,000 ball and chain that's just going to keep increasing over the years, and how you pretty much plan to die with it. I know you didn't say you plan to die with it, but is this success? Really? Blaming the fact that, you're a black male trying to get through the education system, even though you've been given opportunities that people would absolutely love to have, but you took those opportunities and you used it, in all honesty, irresponsibly. Is this really success? It's almost like he can't make up his mind. Is he successful or not? I don't know. I don't think, I mean, book smart, sure, but is that what you were striving for? Or did you want the finances to go with it? I'm assuming you wanted the financials to go with it. So is it really success? I hope my computer screen's not dying here. Hold on. Hopefully you can't see it. I can see it on my end.
No, as Black people in America, you already have significant barriers, and education is the way to break those barriers. And for me, it's very tough to see an environment where, I could be successful economically, socially, and professionally if I did not get a chance to go to Loyola and get my MBA in business. If I didn't get
So he's trying to convince himself that even though he's $150,000 in debt, he's trying to convince that he's successful. That's what it sounds like to me.
a chance to go to Washington and get my degree at George Washington. And quite frankly, I found my passion at Western Illinois University 4 hours.
So 2 out of the 3 schools, so something like 65% of the education he got wasn't even relevant.
Outside of Chicago, so it played a huge role in my success. And it's unfortunate that other young men of color like me are going to have to face additional barriers as a result of this ruling. It's unfortunate. It's devastating.
The hyperbole, okay? Lifeline, devastating. Come on.
And I think we need an act of Congress, quite frankly.
We need less of an act of Congress, and we need more people to take responsibility in understanding beforehand what their financial obligations are going to be towards debt.
College in the United States, a dream for the less well-off, a rite of passage for America's middle-class and upper-class kids. For millions of Americans, though, the dream has turned into a financial nightmare. While salaries stagnate, the price of a college degree is going up steadily, as are the loans to pay for it all.
And we know that with college, and I believe it's about college student debt is about $1.5 trillion, and the majority of the debt, studies show, is from graduate degrees is the majority of the debt. But either way, and then of course you have the Parent Plus, where parents are taking out loans on behalf of their children. But unfortunately, a lot of parents, especially low-income parents that take out Parent Plus loans, are unaware that Parent Plus loans, basically the parent can take as much as they want, and there's no sort of sifting out whether or not you can actually afford it. There's no vetting who can afford to take out, you say, a 6-figure Parent Plus loan and who cannot. Instead, everybody just simply gets it if you have a high enough credit score. And as I said in an earlier video, a high credit score does not mean you have no debt. It just simply means you manage your debt.
New recruits are needed, and it's the students themselves who sell the product on campus to the prospective buyer.
So a student is selling to a student, it's always that, peer-to-peer. And what students don't think about is when a peer is selling it to you, they're looking at the college experience differently than adults should be. There should be more adults in the room.
Something I'd like to mention is on the first floor we have Footnotes Cafe. So these are a couple of the cafes we have. There's actually a full functioning Starbucks in there. So if you need a quick pick-me-up, you can always go in there.
Starbucks. I guarantee you, for a lot of students, that is going to be a Starbucks latte with whipped cream that's going to last you maybe 30 years to pay off. How many colleges, well, I should say, how many young people go to college campuses, they see the recruiters, especially student recruiters, and what's being promoted is the resort aspect of the college. that's what's being promoted. Oh, look at how great our dorm rooms are, how beautiful they are. We've got this wonderful cafe. I saw one documentary. I'll see if I can find it, okay? But really a documentary, but it was a story about colleges. They were promoting the fact that this college had some beautiful waterfalls. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. They spend millions and millions of dollars on universities. It's no big surprise to make it look pretty. But as far as, what is the student to faculty ratio? That's what should be sold. How much are these students in debt? That's what should be talked about. And of the students that have gone to that school, excuse me, of the students that have gone to that school, how many of them are actually making an income that's paying off that debt?
Something else I'd like to mention is on the second floor, if you forget your laptop, forget your charger, you don't have to walk all the way back.
Part of these tours is really
Well, God help us that you should have to walk back to your car or your dorm or wherever, because the college you're going to go to is going to have a charger everywhere. I guarantee it to you, if we're going on fancy colleges, that's probably going to be a walk that you wish you had taken. Because while you may not have to walk back to your dorm today, you will be walking to that second and even for some people a third job, and they will be walking it because they can't afford a vehicle. Why? Because they owe on a student loan.
to get people excited about coming here. What you most likely will not mention is the cost of it. A lot of these people are probably in state. They are not going to consider the cost of coming here and spending money on books. I mean, I've spent...
Don't get fooled that just because a college is in state does not mean it's affordable. Yeah, it's more affordable than going out of state, but there are plenty of students that are attending in-state colleges, okay, that have uncontrolled student loan debt. So don't be fooled and think, well, it's an in-state school, so, really, we need to stop looking at colleges as a 4-year party house and resort. I was never raised that was the purpose of college. I wasn't the spring break and, Miami kid. Okay, I was spring break at we're going to go 2 miles up the road and go see mom.
And upwards of $1,000 in textbooks. It's just not going to even register to them how much money.
And how about those textbooks that, they changed 2 pages out of? Oh, come on, we've all been there. If you've ever been to college, okay, it's like, you say to your professor, well, can we just buy, the first version that came out? Oh, no, you need to go buy the second version because it's been updated. That is the biggest crock of what.
Money they're going to be spending ultimately.
A few months after the end of her academic career, Nina denounced.
And Nina, I apologize. Nina is the one who majored, this gal, I should have said, she's the one, she majored in Persian studies. So you can see now why I wanted you to see that clip of the Persian degree, because I didn't know what it was. And I really cannot comment on something if I really don't know a whole lot of what it is. And I still don't claim to really know what it is, but at least I have a general idea now. So she majored in Persian studies.
Announces a system of which she says she's a victim. The diploma was supposed to open the gilded doors to a career that hasn't materialized.
And how many young people has this happened to? They are told, and it really is true, go to school, take on the debt. Everybody does it. Okay, that's great if you got a parent that's making 6 figures on up and if their budget is in alignment. But if you're, coming from a household where there is no parent, to be able to assist you, no adult, no guardian, okay? If you're coming from a household with poverty, those gilded gates, I personally believe is just kind of a big lie to some extent. And it takes an adult in the room. It takes somebody being honest and telling these young people, look, you know what, that like they were saying here earlier, okay, so you don't have to go to the other building to get your Wi-Fi and they got a Starbucks for your coffee, but honey, you're gonna pay for that. And you could be paying on it for decades. And the lower you are on the socioeconomic scale and the more poor you are, it's going to hurt even more.
The best 4 years of this young American life may have happened in an idyllic setting, but they did not come cheap.
I've spent over $129,000 on my tuition, not including the textbooks, not including the time, not including the energy, not including the jobs that I have.
I want you to look at her body language. Watch her body language. Look at the expression on her face. Do you see this in college pamphlets? Do you see this sense of lost and hopelessness? And people can say, well, she did it to herself. Let's put that aside. Let's put this aside right now. I did it to myself when I took out $80,000 when I was 38 and didn't get rid of it till I was 56. And that was through student loan forgiveness waiver. I couldn't pay it off as a school teacher in my 18th year right now. Okay? Look at this. We don't see this on pamphlets. Why do we not see this on pamphlets? We don't see it on pamphlets because who wants to look at this reality when we can sell you the dream?
I had to take, and I don't know if I do it all over again. It's a lot of money. I love my university, but I can't afford it.
All right, we're going to skip forward. I'm just going to keep the tape rolling. And now we're going to go to where she lives with her mother. I'm just going to forward here. Right in this section. You know me, this channel, I like to be casual, so I hope, casual is best. All right, hold on. I think we're right about there. Here we are. Might help if I hit play. Hold on.
Too well. She still lives at home with her mother.
Okay, so this part is not unusual, for someone to, graduate from school and live at home for a few years. But the question is, are they making progress living at home? Is she getting out of debt? Is she getting ready to gear up to have her own place?
Several small jobs keep Nina afloat for now. The current one pays $12 an hour. That's
$12 an hour for a $126,000 debt. There is, short of a windfall of money, okay, and that would have to be a very large windfall. There's no way she can get out of this debt. But did anybody tell her this? And much like me when I was in debt, I don't ever remember actually seeing the bill increase. And it's because we tend to go to a campus and we go, oh, we want to major in this. And we just get so used to signing the semester, the quarterly forms, we don't even see it. Have you ever gone to the grocery store? Have you ever gone to the grocery store, had your groceries rung up, and you walk out and you sit in the car and you're like, I didn't even look at how much they charged me. You ever done that? I think we all have at some point. Because you're so used to the routine that sometimes you forget to look. Student loan debt is no different, in my opinion.
That's not enough to pay back $1,200 a month in student loans. She's not the only one in debt in this household. Her mother, too, is still weighed down.
Okay, look at the background. Okay, we're not judging because this is somebody's home. But let's take a look. It's easy to sit and say, well, this is all the mother's fault or this is all the daughter's fault. To me, this whole situation, it's systemic. It's systemic partly, within the family and the way they have dealt with their money and stuff, but it's also systemic in society and what society promotes people should do. Not everybody should be taking on six-figure student loan debt. But I am sure when she was in high school, I am sure she was told, hey, you know what? Do this. It'll get you out of this position you're in if you'll just go and take on the student loan debt. And she did. She took it on.
By student debt. So much so that this house literally crumbled under the weight of their debt. Together, they owe $150,000.
Let that sink in. $154,000. Now, most of this is the daughter's debt, as we know. The mother, I believe, works for the state. So she might be able to get out of it. But the bulk of this is the daughter's debt. $154,000. Daughter makes $12 an hour. Mother probably doesn't make much more.
So when I first saw the crack, I could have had someone out here to tell me exactly what was wrong, and we probably could have fixed it if
Pause. Is this what $154,000 in student loans should look like when you're done with college and you're living at home? Is this what it should look like? And I really want to work hard at people saying, well, they're to blame, blame, blame. This is systemic. It is the promises that are told to people if they will go to school. It's the ignorance in understanding how student loan debt works. That's what we're seeing. She can't. This is her ceiling. It looks like the insulation's fallen down, from what I can tell. That's what it looks like. And she says we could have fixed it if. I bet we all know we all know it's coming up, right?
or even just simply bought a better house if it weren't for the loans.
If it weren't for the student loans, I could have improved this aspect of my life. If it weren't for having bought too much house, I could have improved another aspect of my life. If it weren't for all the credit card debt, all the dresses that I bought, all the fancy meals that I went out on that I couldn't afford, all the trips that I took that I couldn't afford, debt is debt is debt. It does not make a difference. It really doesn't. If it weren't for the fact that I already spent next paycheck, I could have something nice a week, 2 weeks from now. You see the message? It's kind of like a drum beat, right?
And it's a constant struggle.
Let that sink in, young people. When you are in over your head on student loan debt or any debt, it is a constant struggle. And in some cases, there's like no end. You know, we all understand that life has struggles. And we hope that there'll be some end at some point. But what happens when there is no end? And this is what people need to understand about student loans. You cannot file bankrupt on this. You cannot file. There is no end. It will follow you straight to the grave.
Nina's mother says state governments prefer to see education as a commodity rather than...
Right. Just like the other video that I did yesterday, where it was the 60-year-old couple and they had nothing saved for retirement. And I said, look at the background. I'm going to tell you the same thing. Look at the background. And again, this is someone's home, so we are going to be very respectful about this. But does this seem like something that two women who have college degrees should have earned? Okay, I mean, does this look like two women who have earned degrees? Is this how they should be living? I personally didn't live like this when I was in college. I lived better when I was in college. This is poverty. Poverty caused probably not just by the student loans, but it sure as heck didn't help.
as a public service. For her, this is a calculated political policy which has led to the privatization and rising cost of universities in the United States.
Take a look. Let's stop. Do you see what I see? What do we see? Sally Mae contacted them on 10-4. Sally Mae contacted them on 10-4. Sally Mae contacted them on 10-5. Sally Mae, people don't have to worry about dating when paying back student loans because Sally Mae's everywhere. I think Sally Mae dates pretty much everybody. Sally Mae don't care. This is her email. Sally Mae, Sally Mae, Sally Mae. For some people, it was Navia. Now it's going to be Mohila. Mohila is the one that took over Fed Loan. And of course, there are a bunch of other student loan providers as well. Anybody who's ever had a lot of debt, me, I ain't no angel, knows what this feels like. You know what it feels like. This is the side of the story that is not told on brochures and pamphlets to young people. This is the side of the story that is not told to parents who are not experienced at what the collegiate life is like on a cost basis. This is the side of the story, the emotional side, that nobody wants to talk about because people will say, but you're killing somebody's dream. Really? No, this is saving somebody. Show them this. This is what people need to see. I mean, look at this. What we have here, I don't have great eyesight without my reading glasses on, but from what I can see, we have a 10-7, 10-5, 10-4, or if you look down even lower, we have 2 contacts on 10-4. Do you want this to be your future? Is the school of your dreams that you claim you're going to pay anything to go to, that you want your parents to sacrifice everything they've got? Is this worth it? Think about that. Think about that. And if you love someone, young people, if you love your parents, don't ask them to afford an education for you that's going to have their phone and their email looking like this. And parents, if you love your young people, don't encourage them to go to a school to take on debt like this that they can't afford. Sometimes the best love that you can give somebody is to say, hey, you really should do it.
Notice.
Look at more. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. It goes down 10-2. Boy, Sally Mae don't give up. I'm telling you.
How does that happen? It's not like Maryland is all of a sudden unable to meet those accommodations or not wanting to provide services to students for the long haul. This is the future. These kids are the future for the state. It's because we should have tax breaks for well, the wealthy.
What people have to remember is that, yes, while your beloved child is the future, the state doesn't care. The state does not care. When it comes right down to it, it is you and your child, the decisions that are made. When your child becomes an adult, the decisions that are made. Yes, I agree with the mom in the sense that, yeah, this is the future. They should care more, but the state doesn't care, and that is why it is on us. It is on people like me and other people who fight for student loan awareness and to really bring out the dangers of student loan debt. Okay, that's our job. But anyone who thinks that the state didn't do their job, honestly, it was probably never the job of the state to begin with.
And that's what our governor did. So yeah, it's horribly unfair. It hurts students from middle income and low income the most.
All right, that's the end of the video clip that I'm going to play. I will be back with my thoughts on this. Before I close out this video, I thought about whether or not I should really discuss this. But the more I thought about it, I thought, we need to discuss it, because if we're going to help people be successful, some of the things that we have to look at is what tools does a person bring to a career that they want to have. In other words, I remember being told years ago, and I know there's a book out on this as well, okay? But it's kind of that you have to live your life for the job you want to have, okay? So this young lady majored in Persia studies, and as we can tell, at least from what I could tell, it's predominantly a foreign language cultural thing, something that could have easily been learned, most likely, okay? Or at least as a hobby, could have been done without the $126,000 student loan debt. Something to consider. And this can be a tough discussion for some people to have, okay? But this channel is about getting everyone to agree with me. This channel is about my perspective, okay? Now, I certainly don't expect everyone to agree with my perspective. In fact, I would probably question if everybody did. I'd be like, wait a minute, something's not right. So disagreements are always welcome and always allowed. Just keep your comments cordial. That's all I ask. But when it comes down to the type of career that people have, I know that being a teacher, and I'm a third-generation teacher, I learned long before I ever became a teacher, it's not enough to hold a degree in teaching, but are you the style of that degree? When I mean are you the style, meaning does that degree match you? Does it match your personality? Does it match the aura that you kind of give off? Does it match? In other words, when somebody says, hey, you know, this person does such and such, it's like, can you see it? Can you see it in yourself? Can you see it? And I remember years ago, I've always known this, you know, being raised by teachers. It's not enough to know the subject. You can know a subject really well. It doesn't mean you can teach it. It just doesn't. And I think, unfortunately, what sometimes also happens with degrees is people go in to get a degree based on a dream. Okay? But it's not enough. And I'm just giving some real hard truth. It is not enough to have a college degree to say, you know, I'm interested in something. But will you be accepted by the people in that profession? This is tough. And I'm speaking firsthand experience. You know, I graduated with a degree in broadcast journalism in 1989 from the University of Oregon. And trust me, trying to be a Vietnamese black female and trying to get a job in the news industry, well, clearly, you know, I got some radio gigs, but that was pretty much it. And then I decided, you know, how much of my life do I want to spend battling this? And I decided I didn't, so I, you know, moved on elsewhere. But it's not enough to have a degree. So let's play devil's advocate. And I want to do this with absolute sensitivity, but I think it's something that people need to look at when they're very young. Even if, with her degree in Persian studies, okay, would she have been hireable? Would she have been hireable? And the reason being is, before I did this, you know, I used to be a librarian, so I tend to do a lot of research, okay? It's just kind of my little hobby sometimes, okay? It's a hobby, all right? And yeah, you're hired for foreign government positions, you know, translator. In other words, you can be hired in some pretty high level positions if you can get there. But do you walk it? Do you talk it? Do you have the look? Do you have the mannerisms? Do you carry the self-confidence? In other words, I can say, I want to be a model. I remember telling my mom when I was younger, Mom, I want to be a model. And I mean, literally, she looked at me, she goes, honey, you are 5'1". You might get to 5'2", which I just got to. She goes, honey, I don't think they're going to hire you as a model. Now, some people say, well, that's just a mean, horrible mother. She's just a dream killer. No, she was reality. Now, does that mean you can't be 5'2" and a model? Okay, fine, but how many do you really know? How many could you even name on, you know, one hand? It was a lesson that she was teaching me that, yeah, okay, you can want something, you can dream it, but do you match it? This is a reality that I think people need to look at when they major in things. You can want something, but will you be accepted by that industry as so-called one of them? Okay? I question, and looking at the jobs that, you know, she would have been going for, I question, with all the greatest sensitivity in the world, but reality, I don't think she would have been hired in a foreign government position. I don't think she would have been hireable. Yeah, she had the degree, but the degree isn't enough. It's a package. It's a package. I'm going to give you a real life story before I close out here. I remember it was a few years back when I was married, so well over a decade ago. I consider myself, you know, I don't know if I consider myself worldly because I haven't exactly traveled the world, but, you know, educated, sure, okay, and I know how to carry myself with appropriate company, and I always prided myself on that, going, hey, you know, I could look good in a gown, and the few times I've ever worn one, I think I've worn a gown once, okay? And I remember I went to a very, very swanky restaurant. I mean, we're talking, this was in Tampa, okay, where I live. I think it was at the top, like the Bank of America building. I mean, I had never ever eaten at a place like this. And I remember I went to even go use the ladies' restroom, and I was blown away. I didn't know they made restrooms where everybody literally had their own room. I'm not talking a stall where you could see the feet, okay? I'm talking every lady, okay? There were like 4 restrooms, and everyone could have been its own dormitory. That's how big the restroom was. And everybody had their own. You had your own sink, your own mirror, your own little hand sanitizer soaps. And I was blown away. It was the closest I ever got to feeling like I was wealthy for at least, you know, 5 minutes in the bathroom, okay? You forgot you were in a restaurant. It looked like a restroom you'd use at home in a very nice upper, style house, right? So this is the type of environment I was in, and I'm feeling beautiful and all that, and I go to sit down at the table, and I'm thinking I'm on top of it, because I knew this was a very swanky restaurant. I was there with my husband when I was married at the time, and I came back, and my napkin that I had just left on my chair was folded across the arm of the chair. And I just thought, and I was getting embarrassed. I'm like, oh my goodness, and what I do, I just took the napkin and left it on the chair. Well, it wasn't quite time to eat yet, but there was food on the table, and I saw this beautiful bread display in the middle, and I'm like, well, this is wonderful. So I take a piece of bread, I butter it up, and I'm having polite conversation. And then I guess that one of the hosts that invited me to the restaurant, they were friends with my ex-husband and myself, leaned over very politely and said, Miss Horn, or, different last name at the time, okay, you're eating the centerpiece. And I said, what do you mean? Of course, I'm dressed up thinking I'm all that, And I said, what do you mean I'm eating the centerpiece? And she literally said, the bread that you're holding, that's for display only. We don't eat that. I died. I could have crawled under a table and died right there. You see, I was out of my element. Now, could I be taught that? Absolutely, I could, I mean, that would be pretty simple for me to fix, okay? But let's look at her background. Let's look at the poverty situation she's in. Now, don't all start right and say, but yeah, people pull themselves out of poverty all the time. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Right. One person out of how many? Okay? We can't take the exceptions and go, yeah, that's like saying, well, this person never had to go to college. They dropped out of school in 8th grade. Now they're rich. Okay, great. Is their name and number in your personal cell phone? Even with the Persian studies degree, and even if she had been offered interviews to go on, would she have been accepted? Okay? Would she have been accepted? When you think of majoring in something, you need to look at more than just the degree. I hope this is making sense, okay? It's not too late, and I feel like I'm just rambling here, but really, okay? I was always taught it's a package. It's a package. When somebody applies for a job, it is a package. It's not just about the paper. It's your poise. It's your presence. It's your dress. It's your mannerisms. It's your speech. It's a package. I don't think she has the package. And this is where I believe she was really given an injustice. I really believe she was. She was told that anybody could do it. I thought that I could sit at the top of a Bank of America building and have a beautiful, elegant dinner and, look like I knew what I was doing. Well, I kind of looked stupid. I mean, the people we were with, they were friends. So it was like, no problem. They were cool with it. Okay, at least to my face, they were cool with it, all right? It's a package. And when you major in something, you need to look at the package. You need to look beyond your own desires. As I told my mom, I want a model. And she's like, honey, find something else. Not that, there's that 1 in a million chance. So part of what was so defeating, I think, in this young lady's situation is, okay, she majored in something that could have easily just been a hobby. And she could have been directed towards something that would have been way less cost. A third of it, okay? Quarter of it, all right? Way less cost, and would have given her the sense of confidence that, you could see in this interview that she's lost. She's lost it. She's defeated. And by the way, from what I have read about her, what I saw about her on another channel, she actually has since left the United States. Now, this video was 7 years ago, so I don't know if she's come back. Good evening, everyone. All right, we're going to take a look at a PBS News documentary called One New York City's Family Struggle to Survive on a Fast Food Salary. And of course, you can find the original video uninterrupted in the description box down below. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's do it.
25-year-old Shanita Simon has worked at a Kentucky Fried Chicken in Brooklyn, New York for 2 years. She's a full-time shift supervisor, helping manage other workers and filling in wherever she's needed, from being a cashier to running the fryer.
You get benefits?
No. No vacation, no benefits, no sick days, no personal days. That's luxury. That's unheard of. No.
And all this for how much an hour?
I currently get paid $8 an hour.
Now, if you notice the background here, I'm just going to back it up here just a quick second. If you notice the background, you can tell this is very humble beginnings. Now, it's important that we don't look at this from a political standpoint, but instead we're just going to really try to look at it from the facts. Okay, so the facts are, you can tell they're definitely low income. The facts are that she is making, I think they said, around $15 an hour, which is still better, I believe, than the federal minimum wage, which is around $7.50.
$8 an hour.
Is 4 bigger than 4?
After taxes, that wage translates into about $270 a week in take-home pay.
Now I want you to think of this. $270 a week. Take home. So let's just be real nice and let's just round it off on a good month. Maybe it's 300. Probably should take it closer to 250, but I'm bad at math. So let's say $1,200 a month. Now I want you to stop and just absorb that for a minute. $1,200 a month for working full-time on your feet in a fast food job. Now, I'm not here to yay or nay, the $15 an hour minimum wage thing. All right. I have my opinions about it. Sometimes I think it's like taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Okay, you give a pay raise, but then everything else goes up in response. So I'm not here to discuss that, but I want you to look at the facts of it and think about how much you make. Okay. And I notice also that she's holding 3 children, and it looks like one is a newborn. So we are obviously talking poverty here. But I think to myself, as I go to the grocery store and I buy food, sometimes I look at my basket and I think, my gosh, I've just spent, let's say $80 and I barely have anything, and that's just for me. So I have to be honest. I can't imagine, she's holding 3 kids, and I think this guy's her husband, okay? I can't imagine someone taking one of my checks, one of my teacher checks completely away, and I'm in my 19th year of teaching, and then the one check I have left, they take that and cut it even more, and then tell me, go figure out a living. I can't even imagine it.
And with that, she's supporting a household of 7.
7 people in your house.
7 people in my household. My mom, my brother, my husband, and my 3 kids.
Wow. Oh, okay. All right. I haven't seen this documentary in a while. Sometimes these things come across my feed. I've seen them years ago, and I go, hey, you know what? I think it'd be good for this channel. I forgot about that part. 7 kids. Now, I guess one of the questions I have is, why is this all on her back? Why is she doing all of this? She says she has a brother. I'm going to assume that if she's old enough to have kids, I'm just going to assume that her brother might be older also. I don't know. He might still be a teen, okay, because she's not very old herself. I think they said she's 26, right around there. And then her mother. So why is her mother not working? In other words, why is this young lady being shouldered with all the responsibility? Now try to figure out how you're going to support 7 people on $1,200. And people go, well, they can get food stamps, maybe some WIC or something like that. That is pennies on the dollar for what you actually need, in my opinion, to raise a family.
I'm the breadwinner currently in my home. My husband recently got laid off. So, we have to foot the bill, and I have to hold my head up high and move on.
Over the past several months, activists and some fast food workers, including Shanita, have been organizing for higher wages. They point out that, like Shanita, almost 40% of all fast food workers are 25 or older, and more than 25% are raising children.
Now, I'm a child of the 80s, okay, because I'm 57. I can honestly tell you when I was growing up, you didn't see older people, working fast food. Not even as a side gig, as we might call it today. Not even as a side gig. I just didn't see older people working fast food. It was all of us young pups, before the arthritis and the back injuries and the elbow shoulder problems all came along. I didn't see it. And in the rare cases where there might be a fast food worker with kids, I just, usually they were managerial, they were management and stuff, but I don't know. They were like store managers, but the grunt workers, I did not see older people working alongside me at Wendy's and McDonald's during my 20s. And yet, if I compare that with what I see today, it's like, I think one of the problems is that too many people are using fast food and treating it like it's a career. In other words, there's a lot of that expectation that because I've done this fast food job for a really long time, I should be paid a whole lot more. But the problem is, I'm trying not to make this political, okay, because it's not politics I'm talking about, so let's put that aside, okay? I'm just giving you my thoughts on this. The problem is fast food was never designed, in my opinion, on how I was raised. It was never designed to be I guess what they call a living wage. It was never designed to be that. It was designed to be the first step that you had into the workforce, to learn how to wear a uniform, take orders from a boss, clock in and out on time to work, to do the job, maybe make your nickel pay raise after you've met your 90-day probation. It was never designed, fast food, it wasn't designed to stabilize and support a family. This is how I was raised. Now, of course, other people have different experiences, and I respect that. But I just wasn't raised with the idea that, okay, Carrie, go ahead, have 3 kids. Forget the mother and the brother that live with her. Let's just put that aside. Go ahead, have 3 kids, a husband, on a fast food wage. And if the ends don't meet, then it's the fault of the employer for not paying you enough. Again, we're talking fast food. We're not talking professional careers or even professional trades. Okay, remember, when I think of careers, I'm not thinking of just things like people who go to college. Okay, trades, careers. We're talking fast food, the basics of working. I was just never raised that it was designed for that. So I think what happens is people who perhaps were raised differently, they do their fast food job and then they go, well, I don't understand how come it's not supporting baby 1, baby 2, baby 3, myself, my spouse. Now, she did say her husband was laid off, but I'm assuming he's going to go back to work real soon.
It's not just teenagers flipping burgers part-time, but the industry argues that only 5% of restaurant workers actually earn minimum wage, $7.25 in most states. In New York and around the country, there have been day-long strikes to push for a $15 an hour wage for fast food workers.
Now, I'm going to surprise you on something, folks. This was 10 years ago. Has anything changed today? This documentary was 10 years ago. And what are we seeing today?
If you recognize that the fastest growing industries in this city are fast food workers, fast food restaurants, and it's a race to the bottom, make some noise!
I've always thought you can make all the noise you want, okay? But, and this is tough love, okay? I like to speak what I see as my truth, okay? Even if you disagree, that's cool. Feel free to put it in the comments. I'm fine with that. Just keep it friendly. Here is the thing. You can make all the noise you want about the pay of what is considered a entry-level job. But in the end, it's going to be up to you to pull yourself out of it. People can sit there and yes, the economy sucks, the economy's bad. Whether it's 10 years, ago from this video, and I hope these people are in a better place today, but statistically, they are not. Statistically. Whether it's happening 10 years ago, whether it's happening today. I genuinely believe that to some extent, the economy, as we like to say it, isn't really responsible for your success or failure in your personal household. I believe the stronger responsibility lies with you, the controller of the household, to make the decisions that is going to positively impact your family. And that can be a household of one, such as myself, or a household of many. We oftentimes think that going out and, we blame the economy and say, well, see, interest rates are bad on mortgages. What is it? The global economy is doing horrible, so therefore that is to blame as to why I can't stop my shopping. That is to blame as to why I can't family plan appropriately. That is to blame as to why I bought too much car, too much house. I can't kick my, bad cigarette, gambling habits, whatever. To a certain extent, the economy is to blame. A little bit maybe on the interest rate you're going to have to pay on your house. Yeah, that's kind of sucky. But in the end, when it comes right down to it, I genuinely believe that we as individuals have more power to control our economic status than any economy, any political party in office could ever have. And the reason I have come to believe this is the fact that my biggest financial growth, my getting out of debt, getting into the 800 credit score, finally, sweet Jesus, being able to shift my life around, it did not come when the economy was good. It actually came when it was going south. It was tanking. It was tanking when COVID hit. It was tanking when houses were starting to increase in interest rates. There are people like me who are living proof that it's not so much what's going on outside your family that matters, that's going on outside the household that matters. It's more about what's going on in your own home, under your own roof. To heck with everything else. I don't want to sound insensitive, but if we allow things like, we're going to go stand on the street corner, we're going to bang drums and all that, bring it to attention. Okay, I can understand, hey, we can do that. We can bring it to attention that minimum wage sucks, $15 an hour is not enough. I got it. I appreciate that. I'm a teacher. Sometimes teachers have to go on strike, picket, whatever. I get it. Okay? But we can't allow that to be our resting space. We cannot say, yep, this is where I lay my head down, is whether or not I'm going to be out banging pots and pans on streets telling everybody how bad the economy is. Instead, I'm going to look underneath my own roof. I'm going to look underneath, what am I doing? What did I just buy today that I didn't need? What am I spending money on that I could cut back on? Because you must take back that power. Because if you don't take back that power, I guarantee it to you, the economy is going to run you. Because you will have given yourself up to it. Instead, I want you to look at your own budget. I want you to look at what you are doing. I guarantee you that I'm certainly not the only one. There are lots of us that during the last, let's just say 7-8 years that have been kind of sucky, okay, since COVID hit especially. There are many of us that actually thrived, but that thriving came because we planned in advance. We were already on the path to savings. We had already converted ourselves to we want to be debt free. We want to live beneath our means. We don't want to compete with the Joneses lifestyle. We were already on that track. So when things went south, we were already prepared. I think it's just my observation that oftentimes, while I appreciate and understand the picketing and the protest that, we need $15 or more, I get it. But if I were to go into those households and really fine tune, we're talking, with a magnifying glass, and we were to look at how the family ran their budget, the decisions that the family has made, both before, during, and after the so-called economic crisis, would we find holes? And in this case, we have a young lady, believe again, she's 26 years old. She's got 3 kids. Forget that her husband is unemployed. Yes, that's unfortunate, but that's not actually the overriding factor of why she's in the situation she's in. There were other decisions dealing with family planning, perhaps lack of education. And again, not all education has to be through college. It can be a trade. So let's make sure that when I say the word education, I'm not talking about getting yourself into $75,000 of student loan debt.
On her near minimum wage salary, Shanita is one of more than 10 million Americans working and living below the poverty line, which is around $35,000 a year for a family of 7. To better understand how people like her get by, we asked Shanita to track her expenses over the course of a week to get a sense of what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck on a fast food wage.
I don't.
Shanita gets paid on Mondays, and after depositing...
Oh, hold on. I don't actually consider this getting by. I call it barely surviving. To me, this is not getting by. It's barely surviving.
Her check, $269.88 this week, she immediately takes out $100 to pay back money she owes from the week before. She's then off to the grocery store. Food takes up the biggest chunk of her budget. On this trip, she spent $53.57.
I can spend $53 just buying yogurt and lettuce. Just buying yogurt, lettuce, basic, almost snacky stuff before, maybe a pound of ground beef or something like that, But $53, I couldn't even imagine trying to feed a family of 7 on this.
So that's for dinner, mac and cheese and chicken.
In addition to 5...
Okay, now look at the products. You could also tell that looking at the grocery store, it's a low-income grocery store, lots of bars on the doors. The grocery store looks a little bit dilapidated, okay? Looking at the food products, okay? There's a big, what is it? When I was younger, I used to think, like, we can tell her husband clearly has a weight issue, okay? I used to think that if you lived in poverty and you were overweight like he is, and I understand some of you are thinking that's probably an understatement, but we're trying to look at this from the educational sense, not the attacking sense, okay? So clearly her husband has a weight problem. I used to think that people who were, heavily overweight, I used to think it's because they ate all the time. And I'm like, how can they possibly be starving? All their money must be going to food. Well, look what we're looking at. We're looking at white bread, the worst for you. But I do eat it because I like it. Okay, but we're looking at white bread, but really low quality. We're looking at low quality maca noodles. This is all starch, all processed. There's no fresh yogurt. Like this evening I'm gonna make me some fresh berries, some yogurt. Okay, I like to put Greek yogurt in my smoothies and stuff. Throw it around with a few ice cubes. This is what they eat. This is what causes a lot of the obesity problem, and a lot of the obesity problem can be misinterpreted as, oh, they eat all the time, because that's what I used to think. I mean, this is garbage food. Okay, and yeah, I eat white bread, but I eat like your Pepperidge Farm, higher quality ingredient. I know it's still white bread, but still, okay. This is the food that you would find at the dollar store, Dollar Tree or something like that.
Boxes of macaroni and cheese, Shanita buys 3 bags of 99-cent per pound chicken that she cleans, skins, and cooks for her family.
Why is she doing all this when she got a mama apparently living there? Unless her mother has some disability that keeps her from being able to work. I don't recall them ever addressing her mother. But why is this woman doing all of it?
Each bag runs about $5.
My daughter milk, $6.
It's one of the most expensive items on her receipt, lactose-free milk, a necessity for her 5-year-old daughter, Kyra, who's allergic to milk, nuts, wheat, and egg.
104 is larger than 014.
Both Kyra...
Now look at the age of these kids. They all don't look like they're more than just a few. The 2 oldest definitely aren't more than just a couple years apart from each other. Now keep in mind this was 10 years ago. But if statistics, okay, this is the sad part, okay, and we don't know what the update is. Clearly, the mother's 26. She's got 3 kids. So she had them, it looks like, in her 20s. If I'm looking at their age, they're just starting, school. Statistically speaking, if my 57-year-old brain is correct, one of them, if not both of the kids, will also have kids when they are young, and the poverty cycle continues, and there's more banging on the drums on the streets as to why we can't get paid more out of our minimum wage job because we're trying to raise a family on it. When, like I said earlier, a minimum wage job, in my opinion, was never designed to raise a family.
Kyra and Shanita's older daughter, 9-year-old Kayla, get breakfast and lunch at school, which fills a big gap for Shanita.
They get 3 meals a day, and only how my children get 3 meals a day is because their school provides 2 meals out of those 3 meals.
Which again further explains the lack of nutrition. Now, as a teacher, I'm happy to say that at our school, at least in our district, you can order salads. Absolutely, the salads are actually really good. I have to be honest because I eat them. Okay. You don't have to eat the so-called more junky food. But the bottom line is kids being what they are, they're going to steer towards the more unhealthy stuff. And when a family has the resources to pay for good meals, even if the kids, steer towards, that unhealthy stuff, they can come home to a really nutritious meal and hopefully it helps balances it out. And better yet, they can even take their meals from home and cut down on that starch, sugar, and all of that stuff. But in this case, they're basically going from cheap white bread, macaroni and cheese at home, and then they're going to school. Chances are we're looking at, near projects. I'm just looking at the background. This place don't look like it's been updated, since the 70s. Understandably, I believe they're in the projects, okay? They're going to school, and the same thing, the same sort of diet is happening. And depending upon their school district, they may not even have the choices of salads and stuff like we have. At our school, you can have salad, fruit, and all that, and they don't charge any more for it than anything else, which is really nice.
If I was to survive off of 3 meals a day for my children, we wouldn't make it. We would be homeless. We would be starving, one of the other.
While Shanita's at work, her husband Jude gets Kyra and Kayla to and from school and takes care of Sarah, their 8-month-old daughter.
Okay, so they have an 8-month-old daughter. I'm going to ask a tough question. And if you have followed this channel for the last 3 years, you'll know what I'm going to ask. Family, is this avoidable? Is this avoidable? Can we call the decisions that were made, can we just call it for what it is? Perhaps not the best decisions. Again, we're not blaming the children. This has nothing to do with the children directly. But the decisions that we make as adults have everything to do with kids. Now, I'm not a parent myself, okay? But I do know that if I'm already living in the projects, I'm already struggling with 2 kids, I already know I'm a fast food employee. I know I don't get benefits. I know I don't get sick time, vacation. She said by her own words at the opening, that's all luxury. When you know these decisions, yet you have an 8-month-old. You feeling me here? Okay? Not hating, just pointing out things when people sit and they go, I have no money. How come my job can't support me? It's not an employer's job to make sure you can live the life you want to live. That's your job. That's your job. It's not the employer's job to do your family planning for you, to see if you can afford to feed every member of your family. That's your job. So again, going back to the banging on drums and, picketing and saying $15 an hour. Again, we're talking for non-professional work. Professional work, I feel a bit differently about. But for non-professional work, work that does not require any special skill. Lots of trades require special skills. Okay? This is not a trade. This is not a professional job. This is ring up stuff at a cash register. 16-year-olds can do it. 15-year-olds can learn how to do it. Heck, I go to a Chinese food down the street and I think they got the 9-year-old kid doing it. I hope they're not breaking any labor laws on that, but he seems happy and well adjusted from what I can tell. So if you're going to bang on drums and picket, that's fine. But you can't be in the background doing things that harm you financially. The two don't work. You can't sit and say, I'm not making enough per hour. The economy is bad. It sucks. It's not meeting my needs. But then in the background, also, be producing blessed child number 3, 8 months old. It's easy to say, well, this has to do with her husband's layoff. No, it doesn't, because these decisions were made before the husband was laid off. Right? It's easy to say, oh, well, this is all happening because her husband's been laid off. No, they were in this position long before the husband got laid off. The decisions to have children quite before you can afford them. I believe, and it's just my opinion, okay, that this is how I was taught. You have a duty as a parent to make sure that your cards are in order to the best of your ability before you start start that family stuff going on. Now, does that mean that, some people, of course, have families and everything was going fine and then, life did its thing? That's different. That, to me, that's different. But it's deciding that by the time you're 26, you're going to have 3 kids. That's not being a victim of anything. That's just decisions that were made on a personal level. So, like I said, you can bang drums on the street, you can pick it all you want, but if I were to send someone underneath your roof and to look at your budget and to look at the decisions you've made, what would we see, and what could have been done differently?
The family receives about $200 a month from the federally funded Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC program, for some of Sarah's basic necessities like baby food. Shanita told us years ago she used to qualify for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps, but at some point lost the benefit. The week we followed her, she decided to try and apply again.
So we keep going back to the things that people who are struggling financially do versus making new decisions, versus making different decisions. And it's easy for people to go, yeah, but you haven't walked in their shoes. I get it. All right. I respect it. But still, sometimes I think for all the time that is spent waiting to be on Section 8, for all the time that is spent standing in the food line, why not do something to change your life in a different direction? Okay? People will spend 8 hours waiting in a food line versus spending 8 hours going to the mall and passing out applications. I don't know. I know there are no easy answers to this. I know that. So I'm not claiming to say I've got a solution. But there's got to be something within us deeper. There's got to be something in us that wants more, that wants to do better than simply wake up and go, yeah, I'm going to go stand at the WIC line for another, 8-hour day or whatever. I mean, I'm glad the government programs are there. There's a reason they're there. We need them. We should keep them. Don't have a problem with that. But the thing I do have a problem with is, does there come a crossroad in one's life where you need to be asking yourself, are the decisions that are being made that are keeping you in that poverty lifestyle, that are not allowing you to be set financially free? Do you keep making decisions that are hurting you? As someone who was a shopping addict, me, all right, I was making lots of decisions that were hurting me, and it didn't have a thing to do with the economy. It had nothing to do with what the interest rates on housing and apartment rents were. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the decisions that I was making under my household. Spending too much. I don't need 4 sweaters that are the same style. I only need 2. You get what I'm saying, though. So I'm glad these social service programs are here, but they're not going to be what fixes your problem. They're not going to be what gets you out of working at Kentucky Fried Chicken because you have 3 children by the time you are 26 years old on no education.
One of her 2 days off, Shanita and her husband came here, a local New York City social service office, to apply for food stamps.
My day off is never an actual day off.
She waits 5 hours to apply because every dollar helps.
Imagine instead spending 5 hours learning a trade, an apprenticeship under someone. Now someone say, but what access is she going to have to that? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I do know one thing. If you want to know it badly enough, you'll find the answer.
Anything they give, it definitely will stretch a long way if I have to use coupons and stretch and do what I have to do.
But anything you give to yourself will stretch even further. Instead of going to someone else and saying, give it to me, so I can stretch it, anything you can do for yourself, the better decisions you can make for yourself can help you get out of that economic cycle you're in. Not saying it's easy, not saying life is fair, not saying that everybody's going to have the same route to be able to financially, free themselves. But I do know, if I look at myself, when I used to have 25 cents inside my checking account in my 20s, when I did not have 69 cents one day to pay for a McDonald's cheeseburger, I literally didn't have 69 cents. Not in the ashtrays. Remember, I'm a child of the 80s, so they used to have ashtrays in cars. I never smoked and never will, okay? But not 69 cents. I couldn't come up with 69 cents between the ashtray, underneath the car seat, and on the couch. Underneath the couch cushions. I just didn't have 69 cents. So I get what it feels like to be poverty. And even though I never truly lived in poverty, I can tell you the first apartment I had out of college had bullet holes, okay, on one of the window porch lights. I got robbed because it was so easy just to jump through my bedroom window when I was work. Okay? Always remember, it's not a competition as to who had it worse. The competition is in you to get yourself out of it. That's the only person you're competing against, family. That's the only person. It's you.
52% of frontline fast food workers rely on some sort of public assistance, including food stamps, Medicaid, or the Earned Income Tax Credit. That's according to a new report from researchers at the UC Berkeley Labor Center. In total, they calculate these benefits cost taxpayers nearly $7 billion a year.
And believe it or not, I don't have a problem with benefits. I mean, heck, I got my $110,000 student loan given under public service after, 16 years of teaching. That was in 2022. I don't have a problem with benefits, but if you're going to do benefits, in my opinion, only really work if you learn while you are accepting those benefits, learn how to do things better, learn how to do things differently. I could have had my student loan forgiven for $110,000 because I held it for 16 years, and then I could have gotten out and bought too much car, too much condo, and my butt would still be broke. Yeah, I got my student loan forgiven, great, but I'm broke. But instead, I took it as an opportunity to do a lot of self-reflection, which of course is a big part of this channel, okay? To do a lot of self-reflection on what did I do wrong? So while I was working to get my, public service loan forgiveness taken care of, I did have to look at that.
It will be 30 to 45 days before Shanita knows if she qualifies for food stamps, but she already depends on other public aid to get by. While she and her husband are currently without health care coverage, her children are all on Medicaid. The family lives in a heavily subsidized 4-bedroom public housing apartment. Shanita has to pony up only $200 a month, but the week we followed her, she wasn't able to put any rent money aside.
Now wait a minute. I think I just saw an adult woman in the background that appears to be her mother. I don't want to mess with the camera, so I'm not going to rewind it. Mother seemed, from what I could tell, perfectly able to walk to the fridge and open it. So I'm trying to figure out why mother doesn't work. If that woman in the background, which I'm pretty sure it was, okay, if you're dying to see, you can always just rewind it. I don't like to rewind too much when I'm recording. But that woman looked totally able-bodied from what I could tell. And again, remember, family, this is one 26-year-old supporting a family of 7 on her income of less than $300 a week take-home pay.
Is it hard having 7 people under one roof?
It's very hard. It's on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes you stepped on each other's toes and but as a family, we learn to unite, and we know.
I don't see much uniting. I think I see her doing all the work.
We learn how to struggle together, because at the end of the day, this is about these 3 children. We don't let them experience poverty.
But they're in it. They are the spitting image of poverty, from where they live to the food that they eat. I won't say she's trying to deny her situation, but I can tell you that if you want to change your financial situation, you have to speak the truth about your actual situation. You have to be able to say, yes, I'm broke. Yes, I have an addiction to spending, whatever problem. Yes, I have no money because I don't know how to manage my finances. Yes, I'm broke because of the fact that I make poor decisions. I've made poor decisions. I continue to make poor decisions. You can't sit there and say things like, well, you know, we just don't let them experience poverty. No, all with due respect, they're experiencing it quite nicely.
We don't let them see, Mommy, can I go on my field trip? Mommy, can we celebrate Halloween?
You know, you said that you...
A lot of schools will subsidize trips that they go on for low-income children.
wanted to keep your children from witnessing poverty, but you live in a really tough neighborhood.
Yes, I do.
The Brooklyn neighborhood of Brownsville, where Shanita and her family live, has one of the highest violent crime rates in all of New York City.
And she's trying to say that they don't let their kids experience poverty?
Don't do anything in this neighborhood but buy what we need and come home. If we have to go somewhere very important, we make sure everything, absolutely everything is in walking distance because we can't afford transportation.
Okay, so respectfully, as I was saying, you're living in poverty. Sometimes it's just better to be honest with your kids as they're growing up. Kids, yes, we live in poverty. And my goal is that you create a better life for yourself, that you don't experience the same hardships I did. And here's why I experienced those hardships. I love you dearly. I wouldn't trade you guys for anything. But I could have made better decisions. Until you get to the ability where you are able to where you are able to say the words as to why your financial situation is in the tank, meaning it's not doing well, until you are able to mouth those words, embrace it, accept it, you can't ever change it. And you certainly can't change it for your children. Trying to fool your kids and go, oh no, we don't live in poverty. Meanwhile, everywhere we go, mom's grabbing one with each hand because God knows what's going to happen when we're on the street. Kids are not dumb. There's enough social media out there. They already know they're in poverty. So sometimes it's just best to say, hey, you know what? You're right. We are in poverty, but I'm going to raise you. I'm going to get you the things that you need to the best of my ability. And when you grow up, here are decisions that I made that I perhaps would tell you not to make. Statistically, however, 10 years later, looking they're 15 or so, okay, these kids would be maybe right around there. Statistically, one if not both will have a child well before 20. Again, I'm just speaking if I understand my statistics correctly. They're not going to wait till they're 28 years old, have got their trade and otherwise, skill set down, married and all of that.
Shanita did spend $20 on public transportation the week we were with her, but she's also forced to sometimes take taxis. For example, after applying for food stamps took so much time, Shanita and Jude had to hop in a cab in order to not be late picking up Kayla and Kyra at school. But the family does a lot of walking, including the almost mile and a half to and from school. Shanita says the daily round-trip bus fare would be too expensive.
And honestly, that mile and a half could be used as bonding time. And if they play their cards right, it'll become some of the most memorable times of their kids' life. Mom and dad walking us to school.
My kids is in one of the best schools in Brooklyn. And we have to sacrifice transportation, walking 45 minutes a day to make sure they are in the best schools because we can't afford, for them to be, just getting by in school. I got by in school and I'm in fast food. I'm in one of the quote unquote low wages jobs.
And what is she going to do? What has she done? Because again, this was 10 years ago. What has she done to make sure her kids are not in the same situation?
Spending $45.35 on toiletries for the house and an estimated $40 on baby supplies, including wipes and diapers, Shanita's bank account is down to $3.26 by the time the following Monday rolls around.
Her bank account had more in it than I did without kids. And I was at the height of my shopping addiction. It wasn't uncommon for my bank account to be down to 25 cents. And if you really want to get embarrassed, even when I was married, it wasn't uncommon for my bank account to get down to $3. You see, when we talk about being financially impoverished, it really to some extent, okay, it doesn't matter what the situation is. You're broke, you're broke. But what does matter it's much easier to get out of one situation than another. It's much easier for me to get out of that situation. In my case, I don't have kids, or if I did have kids, maybe I wouldn't have 3 of them by the time I'm 26, all right? But poverty is poverty to some extent, folks, okay? She's just as broke living in the projects as the guy making $200,000 a year on those Dave Ramsey commentaries that I do, which is, a big part of this channel, is the guy that makes $200,000 a year and says he can't pay his bills. One just simply hides, is it in wolf's clothing, a bit more. That's the guy that makes $200. Whereas if you're living in the projects in Brooklyn, New York, it's just more out there. But they're both broke. I was broke. I had $3 in my checking account, a lot, in my 40s. My 50s has been absolutely transformational. And it's really no secret on this channel that I credit, unfortunately, a lot of that really had to do with, getting divorced when he decided to leave. And I was able to take 110% complete charge of my financial life.
Is there something that people in the rest of the country are missing when they say, you know what, I would be happy to take an $8 an hour job. Times are tight. People would be willing to work for anything.
I would say to them, it's easy looking from outside in and saying, oh yeah, with that money I'll be able to, build mountains, but let me see you survive. I want to see anyone. I challenge you. Do it.
But my question then becomes, is she a victim? Is this a victim of economics? Is this a victim of, lack of job, opportunity? Or is it more of a or is her situation more the result of simply making poor choices? If we really, really get down to it, I believe most of our financial situation is our own doing. And you've heard me say that on this channel. I really, really do. I'm not saying other factors don't come into play. But we have to remember when it comes to money and how we control it, are we going to act or react? Because if all we're going to do is react to everything that happens to us, then we're going to forever remain a victim. All I can do is wait till something bad happens and then I have to try and respond. Versus, what is it they say? Take the bull by the horns. Control it. Control it. That's what you need to do. Her situation, her saying, well, let me see you do it. Well, the problem is I would have not had 3 kids by the time I was 26. And the 8-month-old, that was after the situation was already in play. It's like you already know what situation you're in. So when you tell someone, let me see you do it, to something that you can control. It's different when people get sick. It's different when someone, comes, and this is just my opinion, but it's different when someone gets genuinely sick and says, let me see you try to go to work when you're in chemotherapy. Okay, I respect that. But when it's something that you can control, I look at it way differently.
It's a challenge Shanita Simon overcomes week after week.
My name is Brittany. I went to Tufts University. I studied drama and communications.
I have to be honest, I've never heard of Tufts University. Never heard of it. I'm assuming that because partly based on the cost of the bill, it must be a pretty elite school, or at least a school that's well known by people majoring in drama.
And I owe $118,000 in student loans.
All right, well, at least she knows how much she owes. That's the first step to recovery, right? Know how much you owe. 118 for a bachelor's degree from a university I personally have never heard of seems like a lot of money. Let's take a look at that screen. $900 a month in student loans. I can tell you, if I look at my lifestyle, okay, my mortgage, I think, is probably around, when I had a mortgage, was right around 400, maybe 415. Okay, this is like double my mortgage payment. This was until my student loan was forgiven. This was, I think I paid around 300 for a student loan. But being debt-free today, I can tell you this is about half of my cost of living as a debt-free person. And that includes a car lease, because I love my lease cars. I like to lease a Toyota.
When you started going to college, did you understand loans?
It was just explained to us as everybody has student loans, and this is just something you do to get ahead in life. Taking loans out was just part of what everyone had to do, that they weren't going to affect my life that much. I really didn't understand.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. I did a video yesterday on intergenerational poverty between a mom and a daughter suffering from $154,000 of student loans. Okay, and I know for a fact that that daughter somewhere along the line, and probably the mother too, okay, but I know for a fact the daughter, who majored in Persian studies, was most likely told, you know, especially when you're from the lower income brackets, okay, lower on the socioeconomic scale, and you're told, hey, you know what, go to college. It'll solve your problems. Everybody does student loans. You see, and what is it? There's an advertising term called bandwagon. Okay, so it's a term that I teach to my students. It's part of our district curriculum. And bandwagon and advertising is kind of what you might know as FOMO, it's the fear of missing out. Okay, everybody else is doing it, so you do it. There is something about when everybody else is doing it, it justifies it. It even justifies the irresponsibility of it. When I mean it justifies the irresponsibility of it, I'm saying it justifies why we really don't need to understand what we're signing, why it's okay to just keep signing quarter after quarter, semester after semester, because everybody else is doing it. So because everybody else is doing it, and they're doing it in maybe a haphazard manner, that justifies me doing it. I'm not saying it literally does, but it's that bandwagon, you know, we're all in it together, okay? None of us know what the student loan bill is. None of us know what our interest rate is. All we know is we want this degree. And just like she said, she didn't think it would affect her life that much. I didn't either. And I got my student loan at the age of 36. The biggest thing I can honestly tell you that I was concerned about, and I've said this before, I was concerned about the monthly payment. How stupid does that get? I'm calling myself stupid. Okay, that's what I was concerned about. I never asked, hey, what is the total amount of this degree? How much is it going to bring me in per month, you know, in a job increase? And then the job increase minus what I'm going to pay in student loans. You know, oh, gee, I'm only going to make about an extra $400 a month. Well, I could probably do that. We're giving up a day of working at McDonald's. Never asked that. Never asked that.
Understand the magnitude of them until I graduated.
Now I look at this picture of her. I mean, is that just not breathtaking innocence right there? I'm sorry, but you really expect her to walk in to a student loan office and really understand what $118,000 is? And it's so easy. I know the haters out there will go, well, you know, it's her responsibility. She should known better. You know, we don't all, what is it? There's a saying, you don't know what you don't know. You don't. And I look at this young lady, you know, and she's beautiful. And look at the happy face. I know it's kind of blurred out, but the happy face next to her. Wonder what her student loan debt is. These are kids entering college. They don't come out as kids, in my opinion. Once you start hitting your mid-20s, you're not a kid anymore, okay? But these are kids entering college, 18, 19, graduating at 21, 22, all right? She's just graduated, getting ready to enter the real world of adulthood. I guarantee you, she looks like this at graduation, okay? And that's 4 years later. I'm telling you, these young kids are going into college. They're coming out of high school. They don't get it. Yeah, you can tell them $1,000, but they only know $1,000 as it pertains to a math test. Not what does it take to earn one? How long will it take me to work a job if I'm making minimum wage? How many hours on my feet am I going to have to waitress? They don't have a concept of that. If I didn't have a concept of it at 36, oh heck, I don't expect an 18-year-old to have a concept of it. It's the concept of what does it take to pay it off. It's not that they don't understand the dollar bill. They get 20, 30, 40, 50,000. They can write that down. They don't have a concept of how hard it is to pay it.
Graduated college in 2009, so it was the height of like the economic recession and the jobs crisis. Everybody pretty much had to like move back home and reassess what to do. Then I started getting the phone calls.
Oh, the ring phone calls. Yes, the phone calls. On the video that I did yesterday, I think it was Sally Mae, and there was a whole line, just an entire line of Sally Mae, Sally Mae, Sally Mae, Sally Mae.
That say like, hey, so now that you're out of school, you're gonna have to start paying back your student loans, and your minimum amount is astronomical.
Most students, myself included, when I was in school, in my 30s, I did not know how much my student loan would be. I took it on kind of a wing and a prayer from the financial aid office. People, do not trust the financial aid office to tell you exactly what your student loan per month is going to be. First off, the person that's telling you has really no interest in telling you the God's honest truth, nor do they probably even care. So when the student loan office says, oh yeah, no problem, your student loan bill will be, $250 a month. Well, for all you know, that's $250 a month based on that quarter. You need to ask them, what's it going to be like 4 years down the road after I've taken out a six-figure debt? Well, they can't tell you that because student loans also fluctuate in interest payments. So you have to some extent, listen to what the student loan office says, but also take it with a grain of salt. Okay? Because they really don't know until you're completely done. But the question is, do you know?
So my total due for the...
Hey, back that up. Back that up just a second. Look at that. Do you know how much that mug cost? You guys know. If you've been watching this channel for even so much as a week, yes, I observe a lot of stuff. That is a $118,000 mug if I've ever seen it. Okay, I'm trying to be a little humorous on a serious subject here, okay? Don't take me too seriously sometimes. But it is a nice mug. It looks pretty, sturdy. Probably hold a good bowl of ramen noodles. I think I'll just leave that comment at that.
My total due for this month, $707.74. What will be applied to the...
Okay, so we're at $707.74. All right.
The principal, $64.54. So the principal is the total amount of loan, like actual money that I actually took out. What will be going to the interest? $643.20. The interest...
Gotta back that picture up again. All right. Principal paid $64. So out of the 700, I'm just gonna call it the 7777. Okay. I can't write. It was a lot of sevens. Okay. But either way, it's in the 700 range. You young people, and even the older people who may want to consider going back to school and haven't been there for a while and are a little out of touch, and you're thinking that we're based on the 80s. $64 is what her balance is actually going to be paid down. Hey, but she's in a better spot. At least she's reaching into the principal. This is not on income based, because as I've told you before, if this were income based, All right. She wouldn't even be reaching into the principal. So with this case, her balance is going to drop $64 this month. You have to think of student loans like cars. They're called amortized loans, like cars and houses. All the interest is paid up front. They get their money on the front end. What is it that they say? You need to stay in a house anywhere from 7 to 10 years. I think it's like a minimum range of 7 years. Okay, don't quote me on this. I'm not in real estate, all right? But I think it's around, I've heard 7 to 10 years is what a person needs to stay in a house before they can even start thinking of money going towards the principal. This is why when people move houses before that 7, 8, 9 year mark is up, they haven't paid a thing towards the house. All they've done is pay interest. Check this out. $64. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. Okay, $707.74. $64 is going to the actual bill. And she's in a good spot because, like I said, this is not based on income. Now look at this number and imagine if you're income based. I want you to see this, okay? Imagine you are making income based. She wouldn't be paying $707. She might have a nice comfortable $300. And then she could pay $300 for 10 years. And then when she looks at her bill, she's like, why did my bill go up? I've paid my $300. This is a perfect graphic representation of why income-based does not work. Why income-based can be the biggest scam out there. I remember being relieved when it was income-based because I was like, oh my goodness, I had $100,000, or at the time, I had $85,000, $90,000 loan at the time. I can't possibly afford, $800, $900 a month. When it hit $100,000, it was nearing $1,000, but there was no way I could pay that. Okay, there was no way. And so they were like, oh, no, Miss Horn, you just pay $300. And I'm thinking, oh, phew, thank goodness. And, I'm off on my merry day, right? Well, this graph shows why my bill kept going up. This is why. Income based, she'd be paying easily half of that, if not even less. But that interest would just be tacked onto the principal. And now new interest goes on to the principal. It's just like credit cards, okay?
20 cents. The interest is not money that I actually borrowed, it's what they're making off of having lent me the money in the first place. So most of this money is going towards interest. In total interest paid on my loan, it's $48,379.75.
All right, let's stop and look at this graph. She also has $280 in late fees. So she's paid out $62,000. We're just going to round off, okay? She's paid out $62,000. Wow, that's a lot of money. Think about it. She's paid out, okay, she took out $118,000. She's almost at the halfway mark, right? Wrong, because almost all of it went to interest, because again, it's an amortized loan. All the interest gets paid up front. She's only paid down $14,000. And again, she's not income based. That wouldn't even be paid down $14,000. That'd be paid down zero with more added on. Late fees $280. That's the other thing about late fees is sometimes when you owe so much debt, it's easy to just start dismissing the late fees. You're like, what's $280 in late fees? I've only paid down $14,000 off my, 6-figure loan. But those late fees too get added on for payment. But it's easy to disregard those late fees because it feels like such a helpless situation. So like, you know what? So it's like, so what? So I pay an extra $280 in late fees. Big deal. Every student should be shown this map or this little drawing here, graph.
That's most of all the money I've paid towards the loan has gone towards interest. So my principal isn't going down, my debt isn't going down, I'm literally just paying the interest.
Exactly. It's just like when you purchase a home or a car or a student loan, you're just paying the interest. This is called the reality. This is called waking up. This is called you're not on campus anymore, having fun on the grass, throwing frisbee, with the dorm, mates and stuff. This is called reality. Reality is sinking in. This is what they don't show you in the brochures and pamphlets.
One of the things I do when I am short on money is that
Short on money. You go to school to get a drama degree for $118,000 and you're short on money. Lots and lots and lots of students that have gone to school are short on money. Do you find something wrong about that? Think about that for a minute.
I go through my closet and see if there's anything that I can sell.
Take a look. How many hangers do you count? Just look at all those hangers.
I bought this.
And these clothes look nice. I don't think I've had a nice wardrobe like this. You want to know where the money came from?
Dress for a tea.
Oh, so let me see now. I can pretty much tell you that college, part of the college tuition, and we are not here to criticize, but we are here to learn. These clothes look pretty nice. And as she said, you know, not dressing for tea. That's a really expensive cup of tea. It's a really expensive cup of Starbucks coffee. I can pretty much tell you that a lot of the student loan money went to fund stuff like this.
I love it, but not going to very many teas anymore, so.
She may not be going to teas, but if she gets a barista job, she can be serving tea. Probably wasn't in the original plan, however.
All these.
Take it all. You know, if you guys study the background in videos, you can learn so much. The background speaks volumes. Okay, look at all those hangers. At one point, there were dresses down there, and I'm not saying clothes are necessarily designer. Okay, I have a pretty good eye for clothes, all right, but that's a whole lot of hangers. I can tell you, I have never had that many hangers in my closet with clothes on it. Maybe some empty hangers because I bought some extra at Marshall's, you know, and they had, you know, a 24-pack or something, but they've never been filled with that many clothes on it. That's a lot of clothes. It's a lot of trips to Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet is I think it's, what is it? It's a store where you can take back clothes you've worn and put them on consignment. At least it's popular out here in Florida.
Empty hangers are from things I've sold.
Boy, that's a widescreen shot of the closet that used to be full of clothes. Where do you think that money came from? Where did that money come from? You want to know why you are in debt. Think about all the stuff your student loan money went to that was not for educational purposes. And I'm willing to bet those clothes weren't bought secondhand either. This was first-hand clothing. That's a lot of hangers. That's called a, what is it, a wide shot, long shot, or something like that.
So, getting to the bare bones of it all. Selling the clothes, like, it doesn't cover my rent, but it is extra money towards my student loans. I'm a freelance production assistant.
Okay, so this is job one. Do you need a college degree to be a freelance production assistant? I don't think you do. Remember, she went to school for drama.
I also work at a dance studio as a...
Okay, so now we're at job number 2. She's a receptionist. Okay, do you need a college degree from Tufts University at $118,000 for that? Probably not. Probably not.
Receptionist, and I also work for a temp agency. I only took out money.
Okay, and she works for a temp agency, which means she's sent to odd jobs, and temp agencies usually sometimes they pay a little bit more than minimum wage if you're lucky. So right now we're down to 3 degrees, so we can make approximately $900 a month payments. So all the money goes to interest, and she's clearing out her closet. What are you gonna do when the closet gets to no clothes left?
For loans to go towards my tuition costs, and I had a job for paying for like books and like housing portion.
I wonder how much though was spent on teas and pretty clothes. When you and I don't care if it's student loans, credit card bills, but for the purposes, you know, of this story, it's about student loans. You're gonna find that your life is wrapped in it. It's like everything you do, every decision you make is to cover that bill. Is this worth it? Is this worth it? Everything you do, you can't afford to keep the clothes in the closet, you got to sell it for the student loan. You can't afford to keep the car, to get the car repaired, you got to sell it for the student loan. You got to hold 3 jobs for the student loan. And what was the student loan for? A drama degree. Now, again, we are not here to debate whether or not $118,000 for a drama degree was good or bad, okay? To somebody who's really wealthy, that's not a big deal. What we are talking about is when you cannot afford the bill. Okay, when you don't have the economic means to wipe it out easily and quickly, we're talking about, are these sacrifices worth it? Me thinks they're not, but that's me.
Okay, I hope I get some decent money for my clothes. It's really hard to just feel like I can't really afford rent. I can't afford to eat out. It's like I can barely afford groceries.
And keep in mind, this was filmed 2 years before the pandemic. My old apartment, when I moved out in 2020, my old apartment's about maybe 1.5 miles from me, 2 miles at most. My old apartment, I left, it was 675 square feet. I left it in 2020 to get my condo. I left it early 2020, like February. My old apartment was renting at $1,000 a month. Today, on September 23rd, 2023, it is renting at approximately $1,800 a month. 675 square feet, no washer dryer. So if she couldn't afford rent then, if she couldn't afford groceries then, imagine what's happening now in today's economy.
And it's all because of this student loan debt. And like, I'm grateful that I went to a great college and like,
I have yet, and I don't think you ever will, hear a person say that, oh, I'm not grateful that I got the education. Again, we're really not here to debate, whether or not the education, it gives you great information. Sure, a good education is going to give you great information, but at what cost?
I guess they can't take away my education, but...
And that's a line that people... I'm sure I've said it too at some point. Well, I may be broke and, working 3 jobs and driving in a beat up car because I can't afford to repair the debt. But hey, you can't take away my education. I'm not making fun of her because she's saying that. It's just, she's got a lot of company that has said the same thing.
They've pretty much tried to take everything else. To have a drink of alcohol, you have to be 21. To take out $100,000 worth of debt, you can be 18. You can do that. And
a lot of people will say, how come an 18-year-old can take out $100,000 in debt, but if I try to start a business at 18, they won't give it to me? Really simple. The student loans are guaranteed and backed by the government. So when a loan is guaranteed by the government to be paid back regardless of the cost, anybody will give it to you. Businesses, however, are not guaranteed. I have a little cake business, okay? If you live in Tampa, it's actually in Tampa, so it's just for like this local area, okay? Simple Cakes by Design, for those who are just dying to look it up, okay? But I have a little baby cake business. There is no guarantee from the federal government that my cakes are that my business is going to make a profit. No guarantee whatsoever. Therefore, do I have to pay attention as to how much I charge for my cakes? Can I say I want $500 for a cake that feeds 10 people? Probably not. But if the government were to back up my business like they do student loans and say, Miss Horn, you can charge as much as you want, well, then bring it on. Let's take the price of my cakes from $500 and we'll make them $1,000, because it's not going to matter, because the government's going to pay me back. This is why a 18-year-old can get a $100,000 student loan, but they can't get, $10,000 for a small business loan. Student loans don't vet, meaning they don't go through and check to see if you can actually pay it off.
And I definitely did not understand what I was signing up for. No one explained it to me. It's really scary to hear things like, even if you die, your family or next of kin will be responsible for paying these loans.
Now, let's put a little bit of, yeah, we do hear that, but I think that area I think is a little bit of fear mongering. If you have private loans, and anybody who signed their name to those private loans okay, yeah, is legally responsible. But if my sister, you know, had private loans and I have nothing to do with signing on those loans, even if she passes away, you know, you can't sue me for it. So I think there's a little fear mongering in the part of if you die, your whole family's going to get it. I think that's some extra pressure that the loan collectors put on people. Well, you know, great granny's going to get stuck with your, you know, $50,000 loan, even though great granny lives in another state, has never signed on your loan. So let's make sure we keep that fear mongering in check whenever, you know, you get a call from a collector and they try to say, you know, everybody in the sun's going to be responsible. No, the people that are responsible for paying it back are the ones that sign their name on the loan, co-signers and all. The people who signed their name on the loan.
If you're completely bankrupt, you are still responsible for paying these loans.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And I think a lot of students, I think at this point know that, but I'm still kind of surprised there are students who don't know. But no, you cannot file bankrupt on student loans, but you can run up $100,000 on a business and file bankrupt. But you can't file it on student loans.
Every day I call Congress.
Senator Feinstein's office.
Hi, my name is Brittany King and I'm a constituent from Los Angeles. And I was calling to know, what are you guys doing about student loan reform?
I don't know if I'd call every day to find out. I'd probably be too busy working my 3 jobs.
One of the only deductions I get on my taxes is the interest I pay on my student loans. And with this bill, that would no longer be an option. It's
and I believe it no longer is. I believe it's been taken away.
Crazy that I'm paying $48,000 in interest, and that would no longer be able to be deductible for me.
Think about this, okay? People who keep loans for years and years, all right? You will eventually wind up paying more in interest. It's like a teeter-totter, okay? And if you can't keep up on those payments and really get aggressive into that principal, and instead the interest just keeps adding on and on and on, before you know it, let's just take, $100,000 loan, you can find out that, several years later, 75,000 of it was added on for interest. Eventually the interest can even surpass the amount of principal. I personally feel that federal loans need to have the interest simply removed. That's what I think. Or there's an interest cap. Your interest can't exceed more than 25% of the total loan balance that you originally took out. I think this runaway interest, if the government wants to try to help, okay, I think there needs to be a cap that the interest shouldn't be higher than whatever the percentage is of the loan balance. And that means cap for the life of the loan, okay? That's the most interest that can be charged. Because I think that this is going to hurt our economy. And on a quick side note, well, I don't want to get too far off track, but the bottom line is, so long as 44 million people owe debt on student loans, it does hurt the economy.
And it feels like I'm just down and they're just kicking me. I don't understand why you would make a tax bill.
Brochures would not look good if it said something like, hey, join our school, and after you graduate, you're going to feel like you're down and kicked on. That doesn't make for a good brochure. It doesn't make for a good brochure. See, your job to be a wise student loan borrower is to find videos like this and other videos like this and really find out the other side.
As to hurt people who are literally just trying to pay their student loans, and now you can't even deduct the interest, the crazy interest.